Have you ever felt like you were living on autopilot? As if the days were passing too quickly and, before you knew it, your faith had cooled, your hope had diminished, and your life had lost its meaning? This is no coincidence. It is a spiritual trap. C.S. Lewis, in the book The Screwtape Letters, revealed one of the most dangerous tricks the enemy uses to destroy lives without the person realizing it. And the worst part? You may be falling into this trap. Watch until the end, because this knowledge can change your life. Have you ever noticed how busy life always seems? Time passes, distractions increase, and without you noticing, your connection with God weakens. It wasn't on purpose. You didn't decide to drift away. But somehow, prayer has become rare, Bible reading has been put on hold, and the faith that was once vibrant now seems lukewarm. C.S. Lewis, in Screwdriver Letters, revealed one of the enemy's most dangerous tricks: subtle and gradual distraction. Contrary to what many imagine, the devil doesn't need great sins or scandalous temptations to turn someone away from God. He prefers a safer, more effective path, a path that is almost invisible. In the book, an experienced demon named Screwdriver teaches his apprentice, Worm, how to lead a Christian away from the faith. But their strategy is not to attack directly. On the contrary, Screwdriver teaches that the secret is to distract the human being, to keep him comfortable and occupied with everything except God. So the surest path to hell is the gradual one. The gentle slope, with no sharp turns, no landmarks, no warning signs. The enemy's greatest victory is not to make you deny your faith. It is to make it irrelevant. How does this trap work in real life? Think about how many times you have said, "I'll pray tomorrow. Then I'll read the Bible. I need more time to focus on God." The problem is not scandalous sin. The problem is procrastination, complacency. The enemy does not need to convince you that God does not exist. He just needs to keep you too busy to seek Him. Are you falling into this trap? If your spiritual life was once stronger, if your mind is always full of worries, if prayer seems like a distant habit, be careful. This is the gradual slope that Fiddifuso described. But there is a way out. The first step to escape is to recognize the trap. The second step is to act now before it is too late. God does not distance Himself from us. It is we who, little by little, without realizing it, distance ourselves from Him. Imagine that you are walking down a road, and suddenly the path becomes smooth, without any large rocks or obstacles. You follow it effortlessly, thinking that you are on the right path. But what you don't realize is that, over time, that road takes you far from where you should be. C.S. Lewis, in his book Screwdriver, describes exactly this spiritual trap. He does not speak of great catastrophes, but of a subtle strategy that destroys Christian lives without people even realizing it. Through the character Screwdriver, an experienced demon, and his apprentice Worm, Lewis explains how the enemy uses gradual distraction to lead people away from God. Screwdriver teaches that the best way to lead a Christian away from his faith is not to convince the person to commit major sins immediately. Instead, the most effective strategy is what he calls the gentle slope. He writes, "The surest path to hell is the gradual one, the gentle slope with no sharp turns, no milestones, no warning signs." This gentle slope is exactly what happens when you start putting off small spiritual commitments. Maybe you started out with a tremendous zeal for God, praying morning and night, reading the Bible, serving others, but over time, life becomes more crowded. Work, studies, social media, daily activities start to take up a lot of your time. And without realizing it, prayer becomes something you do only once in a while. Reading scripture is left for late at night, when tiredness has already taken over. Tapafuso explains that the enemy's secret is not a great temptation to sin, but the subtle distraction that makes you lose focus on God. He doesn't want you to deny your faith or become an atheist. The goal is to simply get you to move away, little by little without realizing it, from everything that feeds your faith. Here comes the most dangerous aspect of this strategy. The little things, those that seem harmless, are the ones that most affect spiritual life. What are we talking about? Overwork, "I'm too busy," becomes a constant excuse. But with this, prayer is left aside. The search for God becomes irrelevant and stress takes the place of God's peace. Social networks and entertainment. Spending hours on social networks, watching videos, seeking distraction, instead of moments of reflection and prayer. The rush of modern life. Family commitments, social activities, concerns about appearance and money. All of this traps us in a routine that takes our attention away from spiritual life. Spiritual procrastination. I'll pray tomorrow. I'll read the Bible in a little while. This simple postponement undermines the foundation of our faith and takes us further and further away from God. This is where Lewis's vision becomes powerful. The enemy's greatest temptation is not to make you sin in an obvious way. The devil doesn't need to make you lie, steal, or get involved in scandals. He just needs to keep you busy and disinterested in God. And do you know what the problem with this trap is? It's so discreet that it's hard to realize when we're falling into it. The little things seem harmless and even healthy. Sure, work is important. Sure, social media is just a form of leisure. Sure, life needs to be lived well. But these things, when they're put in God's place, begin to take up space that they shouldn't. In the book, Fitafuso uses an interesting analogy. He says that, when turning a Christian away from the faith, he doesn't need to make him fall into great sins. He just needs to lose his deep and intentional interest in God. He becomes like a lamp that, little by little, goes out, until there's no more light. Another important point that Lewis highlights is spiritual pride. When we get used to the smooth slope, we can start to believe that we are in control, that our faith is fine, even without investing time in it. We can fall into the trap of thinking that we know enough about God and that our Christian life is solid, even without prayer or reading the Word. Fitafuso warns his apprentice that the worst thing is when the Christian begins to think that he already has everything under control. This sense of spiritual self-sufficiency is one of the biggest traps. The enemy may be gaining ground without you realizing it, because you are no longer vigilant. The good news is that by understanding this tactic of the enemy, you can escape this smooth slope. The first step is, recognize that you are being distracted. Stop and ask yourself, how much time do I really have for God? When was the last time I prayed from my heart? When did I really meditate on the Word and not just read it out of obligation? The second step is to take concrete action. If distraction is dominating your life, start making changes. Organize your time so that prayer, Bible reading, and moments of reflection become a priority, not an option. Start small, but be consistent. The fight against spiritual distraction is not easy, but it is essential to keep your faith alive and strong. C.S. Lewis brilliantly and profoundly warns us that the enemy does not need great sins to turn us away from God. He only needs our inattention to keep us too busy so that our faith grows cold. Now, the question that remains is, will you continue on this gradual path, or will you act now to turn to God with all your heart? That's the challenge for all of us. To get off the gentle slope before we drift away from everything that really matters. If this video made you reflect on how the enemy tries to divert us from God in such subtle ways, don't let this reflection pass you by. The truth is in the Word, and now you know how to be careful not to fall into this trap. If you like the content, like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more videos that can transform your spiritual life. Leave your comment below. I want to know what you thought and if you have noticed any of these signs in your own life. Activate the bell to be notified of new videos that will help you grow in faith and understand more about the powerful teachings of C.S. Lewis and the Bible. Let's continue together on this spiritual journey. Until the next video, and may God bless you.